Happy fall, y'all. Yes, that is a thing and an appropriate greeting. Loyal listeners, you will know this is not our typical teaser for the episode. Just me, Eric, alone at the mic. Donna and I have had a busy, exciting, overwhelming, in some cases, last few weeks. We have not been able to connect to record, so I have done a time warp. Yes, that's a bit of an homage to the Rocky Horror Picture Show back to 2022 and our episodes 9 and 10. I have edited original content, added some new bits and narratives, and compiled an appropriately October-based episode. Hope you enjoy, and as always, thanks for listening and joining us.
Welcome to Real Siblings, It Ain't Easy, a real estate podcast with the goal to educate, inform, and save their listeners time as they navigate the market and properties in their neighborhoods. Get ready to join real-life siblings and professional real estate advisors, Donna Reed and Eric Seemann, as they discuss how it may be simple, but it ain't always easy.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home. Yeah, yeah.
Everyone, and welcome to Real Siblings, It Ain't Easy. I am Donna Reed. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams in Southern Arizona, and I work in Tucson. And I'm here with my brother,
Eric Seemann, realtor with Keller Williams Heritage in San Antonio, Texas.
We are here together to reflect and reminisce on how our life and upbringing in the small rural village of Lindsey, Ohio, impacted our lives and careers in real estate, now in the Southwest states, the areas that we call home. We work to try to connect what made the two houses that we lived in together with our parents and siblings, along with the two additional houses that I lived in later with my family, before ultimately moving out here to Arizona. We've learned that we have a nostalgic conversation when we're here together, and it takes a lot of twists and turns during any episode. And in the end, we hope that we're going to be successful in providing you some expert knowledge of our markets while we share some history, statistics, and just simply information about the local real estate markets where we are that you might not be aware of. Man, as you and I started talking about fall, we started with leaves, right? We started with raking leaves, which may or may not have been fun, but it depended on what you were doing with the leaves. Because once we raked the leaves, we had piles to jump in. I reminded you were probably too little, that I used to make the layout of a house in the front lawn at the house on Main Street.
That's your earliest days in real estate, right? You put more effort into building a leaf than you did paying attention to the houses you lived in.
Exactly. So that's true. So Diane Rodriguez and I and Charlene and whoever, Dora Cruz, whoever lived close, we would build these houses on the front lawn and take blankets and make rooms in the bedroom and all that. But you and I also had talked about the memories that come with smoke and burning the leaves, right?
Yeah. I tell you, the fall leaves, our trees were almost all maple in Lindsey. Yeah. I mean, there were other trees, and there's probably more oak trees now because of the
bike path and the
railroad conversion and the park and biking path than there were when we were growing up. But man, there's a distinct smell to fall leaves being set on fire. And I don't know if it's still the moisture content, but man, it's one of those senses from my standpoint that just like a fresh rain on hot pavement, and you get that smell going, well, you can smell the rain. With leaves, I mean, you'd walk outside and you go, oh, someone's burning leaves.
Somebody's burning leaves, and it smelled different than a fireplace in a house or something like that. Not to mention that we roasted marshmallows, right? And we sometimes did hot dogs. Yeah. Since I lived there longer than you did, I went back, again, and was there for 20 years. I remember specifically when we couldn't do that anymore, or we weren't supposed to. We were told that we were affecting the ozone. And as a young person, I was like, come on, my little leaf fire in Lindsey, Ohio cannot be affecting the ozone. I was like, individually offended that I couldn't burn.
There was a volcanic eruption somewhere halfway around the world that did more damage than your leaves.
I know, it's so weird. But The other thing you and I talked about, and this just so relates to our current economy, is that we would get in a car and we would go for a drive. We would maybe go into Fremont to the Hayes Center, right? And see all
drive around Spiegel Grove. Yeah.
Right. And our friends, my friends, partially because of Facebook, of course, or probably mostly, are posting those pictures of the fall leaves. One of the young ladies who's a realtor now in Tucson, or in Lindsey, Rachel Zimmerman, she posted some at Oak openings and up in the Metro Park, up in Toledo. And it's beautiful right now. Something we don't have in the desert.
Yeah, certainly not. And the other thing is that the difference in temperature. Yeah. I had to look. There's enough discussion internationally and on the news about climate change.
Yeah.
And I've just looked at it and going, so right now in Ohio, where we grew up, during the month of October, the average low temperature is about 47 degrees. And the average high temperature is about 64 degrees. Compare that to Tucson, which your average low is 61 degrees and a high of 89.
Yeah.
And then here in San Antonio, we're a low of 61 and an average high of 85 degrees.
Right.
So,
it was a huge decision for me today. First of all, we need to mention for those of you that are watching that Eric and I both put colors on that are sort of fall colors. So his is very blatantly orange and mine is kind of an orange, black, brown mix. This is long sleeves, but it's long sleeve, super thin fabric. So there's this mental thing that you should wear long sleeves. Yeah, I'll put my arms up. You should wear long sleeves, but it's still going to be in the mid 80s today in the afternoon. Anyway, so besides the leaves, we clearly then had a lot of discussion about trick-or-treating and costumes and all of that. And for those of you that
wait. Before we go into that, because we talked with family. Okay, so once a month, we get together and we do a family Zoom. With the pandemic, we decided, you know what? We need to talk more frequently and just see how everybody's doing. So even though the pandemic is winding down and ramping back up, whichever way you want to look at it, depending on the news, we do this once a month, and we asked our two brothers, Dan and Ken, about things. And one of the ones that came up, and even Eleanor, our sister, remembered, was Mischief Night.
I didn't remember that at all.
And I did not remember specifically Mischief Night. You don't remember it either?
No, apparently I never got into mischief, just saying.
Yeah, whatever. Well, I had recalled that Donna had spoken to Dan about Mischief Nights, but as common nowadays, I misremembered. I texted Dan, and he is not a fan of texting, and asked. His response was, never heard of it, no idea what I was talking about. Then I went back and re-listened to the episode and realized Donna had said, or actually I had said, it was my sister-in-law Eleanor who had brought up Mischief Night. Eleanor has now been a family member, let me point out, voluntarily joining us back in 1975 when she and Dan were married in our hometown of Lindsey, Ohio. Before that joyous event, she had lived in New Jersey with her family before moving to Fremont for her high school days. October 30th was known as Mischief Night in New Jersey. Mild, modest mayhem in a neighborhood, which primarily involved, from her recollection, soap and toilet paper. Windows on houses and autos were the target for the soap, and the trees would have an early hint of white as they were festooned with roll after roll of toilet paper. So that was Mischief Night. And you know what? I just have to say, thinking about it, seems that having a specific night identified would make it much more challenging to get away with it. As you might say, as homeowners would be on the lookout for the mischief makers. I also think the local police might have been aware and on alert. Personally, I think a random ambush would have been better.
Well, we did. No, not me. I'm never going to admit that. But I think all those police officers that were around are gone. Threw eggs at windows.
One of them's behind you in the picture.
I know, exactly. That was kind of messy, But for the most part, it was toilet paper and soaping windows, right? I mean, that was pretty much what it was. And I'm going to just say that sometimes when people had a lot of toilet paper at their house, they knew they were popular.
That's right. There was a status symbol to the volume of toilet paper in the trees.
Which is, and again, now we're like, just think of during COVID, how you couldn't even get toilet paper. Can you imagine?
You're getting your $32 a roll micro paper from China while we couldn't get toilet paper here.
Oh my gosh. So those are some of the activities, right, that happened in the small town.
So now that we finished talking mischief and mayhem, we switched to a conversation about costumes. Most were homemade. I can't even remember how many bums or hobos walked the streets in my last few years of trick-or-treating. Store-bought costumes became a much bigger thing well after I was past trick-or-treating days. Honestly, I never put a whole lot of effort into costumes or design. It was normally only hours before that I would try to come up with something, and that's if I made a decision that I was going out to trick-or-treat. By the time I was child number 4, my dad's day of creative costuming was behind him, and we were on our own. And yes, there were always non-participants in town. As almost all houses had a porch in Lindsey, that meant that a porch light was on or off, indicating that they were or were not participating in trick-or-treating. That same light on the front porch or the stoop was also a sign. If you're walking down the street and suddenly the light went off, that meant the candy was gone. The goal was to hit them all, and if possible, hit the homes with the best treats.
Yeah.
So not only did non-judgmental for the costumes, but homemade treats. Did you get cookies? Did you get brownies? Did you get anything else?
Right. Yeah. And because of where we live, you and I talked about, I don't remember going with mom and dad. Like, I don't remember at a young age, because what I remember is when, again, going 8 grades to the same elementary school, that we would go with all of our friends, and you kind of learned who had good treats and who didn't, just like every kid does of every generation. Right. And you would start out on a route and go a certain way, to try to hit up as many as you can.
And then, in the next episode, we jumped ahead to what we see down here in our southwest homes of Arizona and Texas. Let's pick up the conversation there. Flash forward, that was so 20th century, and now we're 21st century. And what happens in San Antonio, Texas, and what happens in Tucson, Arizona, and how there's some similarities, but a lot of differences as the world has progressed. And while we recognize that things have progressed, some things stayed the same. Pumpkins are still a thing, but carving in a much hotter climate full of roaming animals and various wildlife has become a thing. As we pick up the conversation talking real pumpkins, and then pumpkin spice, that comes on in a bit. Let's see what we said.
I'm guessing that's a pumpkin.
That's a pumpkin.
Great big orange something there.
It's the great pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yeah. But for us, when we were kids, it was pumpkins and we carved pumpkins. And now, at least in Tucson, in some areas, it has become a massive decorating contest. And the inflatables are a huge, huge thing. Does that happen in San Antonio too?
It does. It does. More and more. I mean, the purple lights, the orange lights, the rope lights like you have in the tree behind you, giant spider webs, I think it's Home Depot, which puts out a 16-foot tall new Halloween decor item, which they've created a velvet rope. They only produce a certain number of them. There are people who watch for them to come out so they can grab them and put them up in their yard. And 16-foot tall witches, 16-foot tall ghosts, skeletons, things along those lines. Okay, so statistically, how much do you think the U.S. population is going to spend on Halloween this year?
Man, you're the numbers guy. I don't research that stuff. Tell me.
$10.6 billion is the expected spend for 2022 on Halloween.
That just gave me chills.
That's broken down. $3.6 billion for people's costume.
Okay.
Emphasize that. $1.2 billion on kids, $1.7 billion on adults. Where's the other costumes?
The pets.
That's it. Pet costumes. Yep, first. $0.7 billion. $700 million in pet costume.
Oh my Lord. What a world we live in.
$3.1 billion on candy, and the second biggest spend is $3.4 billion on decorations like what you have behind you.
Okay, and so then that brings us into like the all things pumpkin, and how you and I were just talking about how this even grew into the billions you just talked about. What do we think the billions are that are spent on flavored coffee?
On flavored coffee and everything else you get flavored at your grocery store now. Right, I don't know about you, but I think pretty certain I saw pumpkin flavored pre-pop popcorn the other day. Probably. And I mean, you've got pumpkin biscottes to go in your pumpkin coffee.
Oh, yeah. I bought 10 of those at Starbucks because they last until Girl Scout cookie season.
Pumpkin lattes,
Yep.
certainly one of them. I've even seen pumpkin-flavored dog treats. Like your dogs are going, hey, it's October and November. I should be getting a pumpkin-flavored treat at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's become a joke with my friends because for like 5 years, I've put pictures of what I buy when I go to the store because I'm going to tell you, Trader Joe's also has a little mini ice cream cone that's 90 calories. That is pumpkin spice ice cream dipped in white chocolate. It is mwah. I bought 5 boxes. So in Tucson, it's the javelina. And I didn't know that when I moved into my current home. So the first year, I've been here 8 years now, I carved my pumpkins, I put them out front. And the next morning, the only thing that was left was the stem. So for those of you that don't know, javelina they're in the peccary family, and they're really ugly and they're all over the city. Like you, I don't even understand why the stores start selling the pumpkins when they do, because it's so hot that they must throw away a massive percentage.
And not only have we had to adjust our pumpkin carving, and wow, before I go on, I caught an episode of Food Network's Outrageous Pumpkins, and honestly, those people are just at another level. I mean, they're sculptures. Their medium just happens to be an orange gourd. And, you know, as a kid, when I was carving a pumpkin, never did I sit there and think, someday I'm going to really, really get good at this, and I'm going to be on TV. I didn't even know that that could possibly have been a thing, and what made people decide that that was going to be their thing. So after talking pumpkins and pumpkin spice, we then got back to trick-or-treating, or what has become mall-treating and trunk-or-treating, and then wrapped our episode up talking Dia de los Muertos down here in our Southwest states we call home. We talked trick-or-treating and the fact that we went door to door. And now it's much less of a custom for people to go door to door.
Yeah.
Or kids to go door to door, even in the neighborhood that you know. Now, there's a few neighborhoods, but what is much more common now is that so much goes to trunk or treat.
Yeah.
Where the cars just pull in and it's at a church, it's at a school, it's some sort of very controlled, what's considered to be safe environment.
Yeah.
Yep. Air quotes for both of us. Safe.
Safe. And I'm going to bet that back in Lindsey, they do that. And I also am going to bet that they still trick or treat over the whole town because it's a small town, right? And they still all know each other.
We would be remiss, because I know it's something that I was exposed to once I moved down to San Antonio, was Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah.
Day of the Dead, which is actually 2 days. Day 1, November 1st, is Day of All Saints, and Day 2, November 2nd, is Day of All Souls. Mm-hmm. And the creation of the ofrendes and the elaborate painting and faces that go on. And when you do the ofrende or altar, when the souls are coming back to visit their living relatives, one of the things that's included in that is what I have in my picture here of the Mexican market, which is I'll probably going to butcher the pronunciation here, Pepo Picado.
Pepo Picado, okay. I don't know what that is.
P-E-L Picado, which is the tissue paper cutouts, and they're there because the ofrende was supposed to have all 4 elements, and food was considered to be earth. They put out a glass of water for water. They would put up the papel picados for wind. And then the last one that they had as the element would have been fire. And they put out candles or votive lights to represent the 4 elements.
And marigolds. Marigolds were the flower.
Marigolds are the official flower. That's right. Yeah. And then here we get additional, they put out the ceramic skulls or sugar skulls.
Sugar skulls.
And always salt. There's going to be salt on the altar of the ofrende. But it extends going from European tradition, which is where Halloween develops, and All Hallows Eve, and carries that forward in a blending with the Mexican culture, because the origins go all the way back 3,000 plus years. They're saying Aztec, Toltecs, Maya, we're all had different things related to this in and about that time. So the fact that you now have a holiday that starts on the 30th or the 31st and carries through the 1st and the 2nd, you got 3 days of partying and celebration and everything that goes along with it.
What Disney movie made that? I think it was Disney, maybe it was Pixar that made.
Actually, there were 2 movies. One of them is Disney's Coco.
Coco, yeah.
But you know what? I found out as I was doing research on it, that before that they actually made a short movie cartoon just called Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was a short, and then the other is Book of Life.
Oh, interesting. Well, you know that when we were kids, nobody dressed up or painted their faces like the Day of the Dead. And Coco certainly brought that whole piece to the forefront. And I have to tell you, because it's a first that when you said All Saints Day, you know, that's also something that our churches, we celebrate. That's when we remember those that have gone before us. So the whole trick or treat, Halloween, pumpkins, ghosts, all of that, the Day of the Dead and the celebration of All Saints, I love the ideas that are brought forth in that. And I don't know if you remember this, but when Caleb was in Up With People, he was in Mexico over Halloween weekend. And actually,
no, I didn't know that.
They went with a family to the cemetery. And for him, that was one of those cultural interaction things that those of us who are European that didn't grow up with that can't imagine going to a cemetery and having a party and celebrating the lives of those that went before us. But what a great custom, right? Yeah. So many terms for it, right? The Halloween, we do trick or treat. We talk about pumpkins. We talk about Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, the parades. There's a lot of things wrapped up in this holiday that somebody somewhere made famous and expanded and just bring something to our life.
So, as the saying goes, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Certain elements of October and early November, let's nod to Dia de los Muertos, November 1st and 2nd. Holidays remain, traditions remain, such as candy, costumes, along with trick-or-treat. But the blending of religion and customs from around the globe, creating a multicultural day of fun, celebration, and memories, has changed the holiday forevermore. We hope you enjoyed this visit of our conversation from 2022. And by the way, the estimated spend for 2024 Halloween is expected to be a measly $11.6 billion. And yes, that is a drop from the record set last year at $12.2 billion. So officially we're saying it's a 5% drop in spend this year. Hope you enjoyed this nostalgic look back. Be safe. Let's move forward towards Thanksgiving and Christmas. And now, Donna, Eric, why don't you close this show? Remember, it may be simple, but it ain't always easy. And until next time, this is Eric.
And I'm Donna.
And we are Real Siblings.
Someday we'll get that together.
We got to get the time again. See y'all.
Like a mic drop. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home. Yeah, yeah.
I'm Annabelle, and I want to thank you for investing your valuable time in listening to Real Sibling. It Ain't Easy. I hope you found this episode informative and enjoyable. There are several ways you can support this podcast with my Grandpa Eric and Aunt Grandma. Please take the time to like, follow, and subscribe. Additionally, leave them a 5-star rating along with a review on your preferred podcast platform. The final thing I would ask is that you recommend this podcast to a friend, a family member, or an associate. Your engagement is critical to their ongoing success, and they look forward to connecting. Check out the show notes Grandpa put together with their contact information, including emails, phone numbers, and website. And remember, the Real Siblings look forward to hearing from you.